The issue there too is kids aren't told they're worthless. Kids feel worthless. Now let me tell you guys why. We actually have a culture of participation trophies, and we have a culture that tells Lizzo that she's healthy, brave, and beautiful, that all kids are wonderful, brave, and beautiful. But the reason kids feel more worthless and hopeless than ever is because I was talking with my wife about this the other day. There's only one way to develop self-esteem. Now, there isn't a moral sense, we talk about this as a Christian, is esteeming others first, serving others first. You'll always feel better about yourself, and you'll always be more purposeful if you help people. But as far as feeling good about yourself as a teenager or an adult, it's not a participation trophy. It's not lying to yourself, convincing yourself that you're brave and healthy. Lizzo knows she's unhealthy. If a kid is to have self-esteem, there's one way that I know to do it. Get really, really good at something. Get excellent at something. We've vilified excellence, and we've told everyone that, you know what, excellence is just as good as mediocre. You're all great. You know what? You can't tell that to a little boy. Little boy doesn't believe it. I'll tell you that when I was a kid, my dad, God bless him, I know he's watching. I love you, Dad. I would get my ass kicked. I was bullied a whole lot. And you know what? He saw this new thing, UFC, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that's what we have to learn. Because I'd taken karate and all the stuff that didn't work. And so he said, we're going to teach you jiu-jitsu like Hoist Gracie, because he knew I was being bullied. And I went down to the community center, and it was the same guy who taught the karate and the kung fu was Aikakai Jitsudo that he made up. And here's the thing. After that, my mom or my dad would say, do you know what you do to that bully? You walk right up to him and you tell him that he better stop or else. And guess what? That doesn't work. Because I knew if I said or else, I'd get my ass kicked. When push comes to shove, I didn't believe in myself because I knew that I shouldn't believe in myself. I had never learned how to defend myself. I had never learned to fight. So you can teach kids words. You can teach kids to feel good about themselves, but guess what? They know it's a lie. And so when you convince people to lie to themselves, like, hey, you're brave, beautiful, and healthy. Like, oh, Tommy, you're actually a girl. Like, hey, C-, that's just as good as an A. Like, hey, you know what? It's not your fault. It's the fault of insert privilege here. And you try and develop self-esteem that way. Guess what? It doesn't work because at the end of the day, that kid is lying to himself and he knows it. And so kids feel worthless. You wonder, same reason right now, look at COVID. What are kids able to get good? We have a higher depression rate in adolescents and teenagers than ever because they can't do anything. They can't accomplish anything. You can't develop self-esteem unless you accomplish something. It's that simple. Look.
And you're being told to fight each other. And I'm sorry, and I'm not even...
go ahead.
But I just agree with you very much on that point because when I was young, I was really good at drawing, but that didn't necessarily make you popular or cool, kind of a nerd. My brother was an athlete, whatever. So I learned that when I played sports with people, I just had to be worse and they'd like me because they were better than me. And as I got older, that's what I learned, is if I just sat back and people were better, they'd be my friend.
Right.
And then I got into high school, and my dad was always like, you love making films, but then, it wasn't like every kid wanted to make movies then.
Right.
It was my brother calling me gay slurs, every time I held the video camera. But then I got into high school, and I failed every class, but one class I had was TV production.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I was making movies, and this teacher believed in me. And I started going to that class, and I was making all this stuff. I was going on the assembly playing like Bennett Brower, doing like the news every single day for our school, like as Chris Farley. And it's like this guy, and he may never know it, but he's the only person that kept me in school and in many ways may have saved my life and my dad by telling me, like, no, you are funny, you have talents.
Yeah.
It's just not what you think, it's not what you want them to think it is. Because I started drinking and partying to be popular, and it worked. Yeah. It worked real well.
Just like smoking, kids.
Yeah, but that one thing, and now look where I am now, though. I make sketches. I'm on a show. Like, I wouldn't be anywhere in my life if that teacher didn't sit me aside and actually believe in me. And I think a lot of these kids, you just skim over any talent that they have if it's not painfully obvious. And I think that's the sad part is nobody said, and I remember this one teacher who ended up, sorry if I'm rambling.
No, go.
But she was this one teacher who was in a class and she was substituting for a couple weeks. And she was in improv. She told me about Second City, and my dad had talked about it.
Yeah.
Because she actually thought I was really funny, even though I was just being the class clown dick.
Right.
And she goes, "You should take these classes. You're actually funny." She goes, "You annoy the hell out of me, but I do have to sometimes." She's like, "I do have to sometimes hold
she's
it
honest.
in."
Yeah.
Well, years later, I'm doing a Motor City Improv show, and my friend Adam goes, "My wife's coming today." It was her. And I was doing improv with the teacher who told me that I actually had value.
Wow.
But it was two people in all those years in school that saw something in me when everybody else called me a failure, brought me down to the office, told me I wasn't anything.
But here's the thing. That started with truth. In other words, if that teacher saw that you weren't very popular and said, "Hey, no, you're good at hockey," wouldn't have helped you.
At all.
It helped you because she fostered something in you that was true, that she knew you could become good at. The problem is now we have so many, in trying to be fair, we have teachers who spend more time trying to convince a kid who hasn't done anything worthy of praise that they are worthy of praise, rather than finding the kids who are either worthy of praise or trying to develop something worthy of praise. That's the problem with the participation trophy, and I'm using that just as an emblem. That's the problem with a society that says, hey, you know what? It's not about equal opportunity, it's about equity. Because guess what? If you try and enforce equity, you have to discard. This is why equity, by the way, the idea of ensuring equity, and I'm going to leave on this, the idea of ensuring equity comes from a Marxist, and when I say Marxist, godless ideology.
You're right.
When we're talking about guns here. Look, gun-free zone, we've done so many segments. Go watch I'm Pro-Gun, change my mind. I think I've said all I need to say about that. If you believe the bullshit they're peddling right now, there may be no hope for you. Go watch those segments. But we are talking about equity, and this all stems from that. Equity stems from Marxism. Marxism is a distinctly godless ideology. And what does that mean? To ensure equity, you have to discard the idea of equal opportunity. You cannot have equality. You cannot have equal opportunity and ensure equity.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.